Where's my snare? There's no snare in my headphones. If you follow Eminem at all, you know what I'm saying. Becoming a student of business. What do I mean by that? Well, becoming a student of business is not necessarily becoming a business student. I was a business student a long time ago. About 100 years ago, I was at Purdue University, and I was a full business student. And I paid a lot of money to graduate from an institution that taught me how to be a business student. But they didn't really teach me how to be a student of business, and I want to make that distinction right here for you guys who, again, I'm addressing the married business owner of a parent who have kids at home, or maybe your kids are older and they're kind of growing up and maybe haven't quite left the nest, or maybe they have left the nest. But you guys are you are the married business owners, and you have a lot going on in your life. Maybe you're trying to shoehorn church in once in a while, shoehorn Bible studies in, shoehorn going to soccer games and soccer practice and football games and football practice and baseball games and all the things that are going on. Your lives are busy. And this is what I'm talking about as being a student of business, which is a lot easier than being a business student. And I also think it can teach you a lot more than just the basics of business. Now, I'm not tearing down formal education. That's not what I'm about at all. I got a degree from Purdue University, and I can't say, there's a lot of people like, well, I got a degree and I do nothing with it, is wasted education. Honestly, I don't think any education is wasted unless you're making it a choice for it to be wasted. But I don't think in that particular case it's a good way to approach that. In my estimation, I really feel that you can apply pretty much any education to something. I think that there's always some benefit in some way or another. But what am I talking about? So my education as a student of business, okay, as a student, man, I'm hot on that mic, sorry. As a student of business, I started back actually when I was in college. And originally I went to college, I started out in the hotel management space. And I was in this, restaurant, hotel, tourism, whatever. And I decided I really didn't want to get that educational background. I actually wanted to shift into more, management, accounting, finance. That's what I got my degree in, was accounting with a minor in finance. But during that period of time, I went and worked for some hotels. I went and worked for some banks because I really wanted to understand and get as much exposure to business as much as possible. And that was some advice that was given to me by someone who said, hey, if you want to learn that industry, go in those industries, learn as much as you possibly can now, and soak up whatever they can teach you, and they will teach you whatever you're willing to learn. And that was really good advice, and I always appreciated that. So, this is some of the stuff that's interesting, that as I look at some of my early texts, and I still have this book. This book was actually one of the first books I had read in the real estate space. And this was actually copyrighted back, I believe, in 1998, just to give you an idea in terms of how old this book is. But yeah, it was written by Jack Cummings, and it was copyright, why can't I see? 97. So this book it's a lot, and it's a tome. And you can see, like, back in the day, actually, they didn't have cutesy little tabs that I use now on my books, right? You can see the tabs there. But, so I made them. I made my own. But this was so even back then, I really went through this book. And this book was interesting because for those of you who follow me on, or have been following me for a while, know that I talk about the Viper method, which is vision, infrastructure, process and planning, execution, and reporting. And part of that vision piece is really about where you want to go. So it's a top-down strategic approach in terms of where you want to go. And in that book, and in like the first 11 pages, the guy talked about vision. Like, where are you trying to go? What are you actually trying to accomplish? And it had nothing to do with business. It had everything to do with like what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you're wanting to buy a boat, for your personal use, write that down, and get that clear. And it was really interesting. So even back when I first read this book, and I think I bought it, I don't think I bought it in 97. I think I bought it in maybe 99 or 2000, and started reading that book, and because I really wanted to understand real estate finance. But my point about being a student of business, and I started learning about real estate as much as I could. And I started learning about mortgages and learning about banking and learning about all the different aspects of real estate as much as I possibly could. And I proceeded to make about every possible mistake a person could make in an industry, because I made a ton of mistakes in real estate. And it's interesting that even though I think the amount I spent on my education at Purdue was a bit cringeworthy, the amount that I spent in my education in real estate was multiple times more than that. So, and that's just because I was making a lot of mistakes. I was not very open to coaching. I wasn't very open to learning the easy way. I always had to seem to do things the hard way. But what am I talking about is being a student of business is also learning about business in general, even if it's not necessarily in the field that you are interested in. So follow me here for just a second. When I started getting out into the business world a little bit, and I was doing my real estate business full time, I think at the time I had I had a little bit over $6.5 million in real estate, and I was busy. I mean, I was 92 rental properties, and I was grinding, and it sucked. But I was out there, and I was learning as much as I possibly could from as many different business owners as that would take their time to pour into me, and that meant sitting and looking at like how a well-run operation actually looked. And it was interesting because, you know, these were businesses that had infrastructure, and because they had infrastructure and they were making good money, they poured their profits back into infrastructure of the business and making their businesses even better and better and better. And they would stack good processes on top of that infrastructure. And it's when I came to realize that when a business when it doesn't have infrastructure, when it doesn't have proper infrastructure, right? Like if it doesn't have a good phone system, or it doesn't have a good email system, or it doesn't have a good CRM, or it doesn't have a good, management software, depending whatever the property, whatever the business was, if it didn't have a good infrastructure, you had to beef it up with process, right? And process generally has to be beefed up with people, with human capital. And that's massively inefficient and ineffective, and it's also very inconsistent. So I started to recognize that some of the best companies they would make investments into infrastructure. And some of that infrastructure was having better phone systems. Some of that infrastructure was having better software. Some of that was taking the time for training, and having that as part of their infrastructure in terms of making sure that their people were well trained, so that when people did come on board, that they were receiving the same training, and it was very consistent. And they recognized, some of these best companies recognized that they really didn't compete. The thing that they had to compete was, the thing that they had to compete against was inconsistency. And a company that can be consistent across the board, that's fundamentally the ones that are going to beat the ones over and over and over again that can't be consistent. And being consistent in your marketing first and foremost, because again, there's 4 core functions of business, right? There's lead generation, there's sales, there's operations, and accounting. And the companies that did the lead gen the best, they could have a horrible sales function. They could have a mediocre operation, right? And an accounting function that was meh, but they would never starve because they had a really, really good lead generation. They were always able to bring in new clients or bring back old clients. Now, again, you can't be completely incompetent. That's why I say you have to have an okay, or at least mediocre at best, operational function or fulfillment function. But and then in which case then you're going to have pricing pressure. You're not going to be able to price if you're not competent. But let's just suppose that you have a base level of competence that people are saying, oh, you know what? It doesn't suck. I'm willing to go back. There's not a lot of other options that I can bring my car to, or where I can go get coffee, or where I can go get pancakes, or whatever it is. You're still going to get some repeat customers until another player comes in and markets better than them, right? So you got to think about this, is that it goes back to the whole like VCR beta challenge that was like back in the day when there was VHS and there was beta, and beta was the superior technology, except that that VHS was marketed better, and actually they were able to hold full length movies where beta couldn't do that, even though beta had better quality. Didn't matter, right? At the end of the day, people were like, no, I want to watch a movie and not have to change the disc 6 times. Or change the tape 6 times. So when I'm talking about being a student of business, I poured into it. I would literally go And if I was sitting waiting for my car to get worked on, I didn't just sit there, and at the time scrolling on the phone wasn't a thing. This was like, mid 2000s. But I would sit and I would look at the operation, and I would see how customers came in and how they were routed and how they were taken care of. And I'd pay attention to the consistencies and the inconsistencies that would go on, and say, you know what? I wonder how they manage this. And some of the best companies, they didn't always get it right. But how they managed their customers and their clients when they didn't get it right was a real true mark of an effective company. Because trying to get it right all the time is almost impossible. But in most businesses, it's not super critical. I mean, short of heart surgery and maybe some other things related to that where tolerances are super, super small. But other than that, generally, you can have, especially in the customer service realm, people understand that people make mistakes. It's how you own up to those mistakes later on that really matters. But I'm going to wrap this up here, because I would go to coffee shops and watch their operations. I would go to Starbucks and see their little square up on there. And I'm like, what are all those numbers mean? And I would ask the managers when they weren't super busy and say, what do all those metrics mean up there? They meant something. And they'd say, oh, that's the time that people are in line, or that's this metric, or that's that metric. And I would watch all of that different infrastructure play out and see how I could bring that back into my business and see making that relevant to me. It was interesting that, so I've read other books outside of my real estate genre. Of course, the first couple books, like I said, the first 1,000 or so books I've read was very much real estate focused, like I said, in the Real Estate Finance and Investment Manual. But I ordered this book on purpose, and for a couple reasons. So I ordered this book, Gym Launch Secrets, by this guy Alex Hormozi. If you're not familiar with Alex Hormozi, he is brilliant. He's got a great podcast and show and YouTubes, and he's everywhere. But the guy is brilliant. But he started by launching gyms, and I thought, I've read everything that he has put out there. He had $100 million offers and $100 million leads, and then, although technical, it's 100M, so it should be 100,000. But we'll give him a pass because he's a brilliant dude. But again, the $100 million offers or $100 million leads, where it's fantastic books. But I wanted to read this book because I wanted to go from beginning to end in terms of how he set up a business. And I believe this is actually his first book. And I also wanted to understand how he ran a gym. Why? Am I interested in opening a gym? No. But I'll tell you what, in my coaching business and my real estate business, there were things in here that I learned that I can now apply in both of those other businesses that no one else would think to apply. And I also, because I'm a strategist and I work with lots of different business owners, I also have things that they could apply in creative ways that he applied in Gym Launch Secrets. So it was interesting that, and I've done that across lots of different industries. So when I look at, for example, I ordered this book by Dan Kennedy, Magnetic Marketing. Okay, so Magnetic Marketing is this book that I ordered. However, what I received was Magnetic Marketing for Dentists. Okay, and interesting, I did not order this on purpose. Okay, so I actually ordered it, and I ordered the Magnetic Marketing book, and I clicked on paperback because I like paperbacks better than hard copy, and it linked me automatically to the dentist one. And I said, did I order this on purpose? And I went back and tried to replicate it, and there's a problem with the link on Amazon. Was I mad? Was I going to send this back? No, because there's something in here, I promise, or lots of somethings in here that, in terms of how dentists will attract clients, that I absolutely can use either in my business or I can help others use in their business as a strategist. So was I mad about it? No. I mean, I went back and ordered the book that I actually wanted, but I had to order a hardcover because whatever, it wouldn't give me the option to order one that wasn't for dentists. So anyway, that's what I'm saying is, when you look at opportunities like this, to be a student of business, I don't get overly upset when opportunities like that show up to say, oh shoot, I'm going to have to learn about an industry that I have really no interest in. I don't have any interest at all in being a dentist or marketing for dentists or anything along those lines. But that is going to give me an opportunity to give me the insight into another industry that I might be able to apply to my own. So point in fact here, become and be a student of business and be totally okay with that. And be okay with learning how to apply things in different ways within your own industry. So that is all I have for today, folks. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe it, maybe share it with someone that can actually get some benefit to this, and you can help them get a time wealthy advantage. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys next time.